The Galactic Council Hall was quiet. Hundreds of alien species sat on high platforms that circled the room. Their eyes, some like glowing orbs, some like shifting shadows, were all on him. He was small among them, a human veteran in an old uniform. His back was straight. His hands were behind him. He looked calm. He was accused of something serious. The papers in front of the alien judge called it interference in galactic stability. Most species thought it was a serious crime. Some whispered to each other, curious and excited. Humans were young in the galaxy. They were weak. They were small. They were easy to underestimate. The human veteran did not speak. He did not fidget. He waited. Around him, the council members moved and whispered, but none dared to approach. The hall was too large, too old, too powerful. Ancient species had ruled this chamber for thousands of cycles. Their decisions shaped the galaxy. And yet here was a single human standing alone. The alien judge, a tall creature with 3 eyes and skin like polished stone, tapped the gavel. The sound echoed through the hall. Silence came. Even the whispers stopped. The judge looked down at the papers in front of him. "All rise," the judge said, and every council member stood except the human. He did not move. The judge's voice was low and firm. "The accused will be named." The human veteran's name was written in the council records. When the judge spoke it, a strange thing happened. The room paused. Some delegates froze mid-breath. Some eyes blinked slowly. The younger species shifted uncomfortably. Whispers tried to start but faded before sound left mouths. The human veteran's face did not change. He waited as the name echoed through the hall. For many it was not just a name. It was history. It was a story they had almost forgotten. For others it meant nothing. Humans had been too quiet, too small, too few to matter. The judge looked at the veteran carefully. "You have been accused of interference," he said. "You will have a chance to speak. But first, the council will review the record." Records rolled out from the walls. Holograms lit the hall with images and reports. Scenes of distant planets appeared, some burning, some peaceful, some abandoned. The council watched. Some nodded. Some frowned. But all eyes were on the human. He did not flinch. He had seen worse far away from this place. He had faced storms, failures, and choices that would have crushed anyone else. But here, surrounded by powerful species, he remained calm. Not because he was fearless, but because he knew his actions had been right. The youngest council member, a creature with tentacles and soft scales, whispered to a neighbor, "Why does this human matter so much? They are small. They are alone." The neighbor shook its head. "Listen. There is history. You will see soon." A hologram showed a planet where humans had arrived during a great conflict. Many species were fighting, many were losing everything. Humans could have taken advantage. They could have taken resources, taken power, taken control. But they did not. Instead, the human veteran led a mission to save civilians. He helped aliens who were not his people. He refused to harm the weak. He refused to cheat or steal. The council members who remembered it all now shifted, some uneasily, some with respect. The judge spoke again. "Records show your actions saved countless lives. Yet you are accused of interference. Explain yourself." The human veteran did not speak yet. He looked around the chamber. He did not see enemies. He saw beings who were curious, beings who were powerful, beings who needed to understand. He would tell them when the time came. Outside, the galaxy waited. News of the trial had spread. Many thought humans would fail. Many thought humans would be punished. Few knew the truth. The truth was that humans had acted differently than anyone expected. They had chosen responsibility when no one forced them. The council waited. The human veteran stood quietly. He was a small figure in a giant hall, but there was something in him that even the oldest species could feel. Strength, calm, wisdom, humanity. And as the first part of the trial began, the chamber felt heavy with expectation. Not for punishment, not for fear, but for the moment when the human would speak. The moment came. The alien judge's deep voice echoed through the chamber as he spoke the human veteran's full name. At once, a strange silence fell over the council. Not the normal quiet that happens when a leader speaks, but a stillness that felt almost alive. Every species in the room froze as if time itself had paused. Some of the older delegates, creatures with scales like crystal or feathers like storms, leaned forward. Their eyes widened in surprise. Some whispered to each other, though the words were soft and almost invisible. Younger species blinked, confused. Humans were insignificant in their eyes. They had never expected a single human to matter, let alone a name to stop them in their tracks. The veteran stood tall, unchanged. His face was calm, his eyes steady. He did not smile and he did not flinch. He knew the name carried history, though many here did not. He had lived it. He had acted on it. And now, in this chamber, the weight of it was showing. A hologram flickered above the council floor. It showed events from decades ago. Planets burning from wars, cities destroyed, and people running for their lives. Humans were visible in the images, not as warriors or conquerors but as helpers. The veteran and his team were there, guiding aliens, carrying supplies, building shelters, calming panic. They had saved lives when everyone else had chosen power or profit. The council members, species who had long lived through wars and betrayals, began to understand. Their whispers grew softer. Some closed their eyes as if remembering something long forgotten. One delegate, a being with 6 arms and eyes along each limb, whispered, "It cannot be." Another, covered in fur that shifted colors, muttered, "The human did not fight for power." The alien judge looked down at the veteran. "Your name is known across the galaxy," he said slowly. "And yet, many here do not understand. Perhaps you will explain." The veteran did not speak immediately. He waited, letting the silence stretch, letting every eye in the chamber feel the calm in him. He had learned long ago that words carried more weight when people expected them least. Finally he spoke. His voice was quiet but firm, carrying across the vast hall. "I did what anyone should have done," he said. "When lives are at risk, it is not power that matters. It is choice. I chose to protect the weak. I chose to save those who could not save themselves. That is all." The chamber reacted again, this time with murmurs, sighs, and shifting seats. Some species nodded slowly as if remembering their own failures. Others looked shocked, not used to hearing such honesty, such simplicity, such courage. The judge leaned forward, his 3 eyes fixed on the human. "You speak of choice," he said. "Yet many in this galaxy have forgotten it. They see survival as power. They see strength as domination. And yet you acted differently. Tell us, why?" The veteran's eyes moved across the room. He did not look for approval. He looked for understanding. "Because someone has to be better first," he said. "If no one makes the right choice, then no one can blame the galaxy. We all fail. But when one person chooses, it gives others hope. That is all humans ever did. That is all I ever did." A hush fell again. The younger species, who had been skeptical, began to see it. Humans were small, yes, but they had the power of responsibility. They had the power to act rightly even when the galaxy expected them to do wrong. The judge paused. Then, slowly, one by one, members of the council stood up. First a few, then more. A ripple moved through the chamber, and soon hundreds of delegates were rising. They did not rise in anger. They did not rise in fear. They rose in respect. They rose because a single human, small and quiet, had done what no other species had done in centuries. The veteran remained standing. He did not bow or nod. He did not smile. But inside he felt a quiet satisfaction. He had not sought praise. He had not sought fame. He had only done what was right. And now, for the first time, the galaxy seemed to notice. The judge's voice broke the silence. "It seems the council must reconsider its understanding of humans," he said. "Not as weak, not as small, but as a species capable of decisions that even the oldest among us struggle to make." The veteran nodded slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement. Around him, the council whispered among themselves. History was remembered. Lessons were recalled. The trial, which began as a test of guilt, was changing. It was becoming a recognition of humanity's strength, not in war, not in power, but in courage, choice, and responsibility. Outside the chamber, across the galaxy, news of the trial spread quickly. Many expected punishment. Few expected this. Few understood that the small human standing quietly before hundreds of alien species had just reminded the galaxy of what it had almost forgotten, that the greatest strength is choosing to do what is right. And in that hall, in that moment, the human veteran remained still, calm, and strong. A small figure standing tall in the middle of the galaxy's greatest council, showing that even a single human could change the way the galaxy thought about life, justice, and responsibility. The council chamber was quiet, but the silence was different now. It was no longer filled with tension or fear. It was filled with curiosity, wonder, and a little disbelief. All eyes were on the human veteran. Many species had stood, acknowledging him, but few understood why. He had not fought with weapons. He had not conquered worlds. And yet, his name carried weight across the galaxy. The alien judge spoke slowly. "Before this council can decide anything, we must understand the actions of humans in times of crisis. Let the records show the truth of your choices." Holograms rose from the walls, filling the hall with light. Scenes of distant worlds appeared. Some were in ruins. Cities burned. Oceans boiled. Storms tore across deserts. The council members watched, their faces reflecting memory, shock, and thought. The veteran stood still, his eyes calm. He had seen all this before, not as a trial but as duty. He had acted even when no one else had dared. He had made choices that were hard, lonely, and quiet. Choices that mattered. The holograms showed a planet far from Earth. A war raged there, involving species older than the galaxy itself. The humans arrived late, but not too late. They could have taken advantage, taken power, or taken resources. Most species would have. Most species did. But the human veteran had refused. He had organized shelters for the injured. He had given water to those who were dying of thirst. He had built barriers to protect civilians from collapsing buildings. He had saved children, the elderly, and even enemies. Every action was careful, deliberate, and guided by a simple principle. Life mattered more than power. The council watched, mesmerized. Younger delegates whispered, "Why? Why would a small species risk so much for others?" Older ones did not speak. They remembered. Some had faced similar choices long ago and had chosen the easier path. Humans had not. Humans had chosen the harder path. The alien judge's voice broke the silence. Your actions saved thousands, yet you faced danger, loss, and despair. Yet you never sought reward. Tell us, human, why? The veteran's voice was quiet but steady. Because someone must choose to do what is right, he said. If no one acts, if no one cares, then everyone fails. I acted because I could. I acted because I had to. And I acted because no one else would. That is the choice humans have always made. We do not seek power. We do not seek glory. We choose responsibility. The chamber reacted again. Some delegates gasped. Others leaned forward, listening carefully. The younger species were shocked. They had never seen a species act purely out of care. They had seen cruelty, cleverness, strength, but not mercy. Humans were different. They acted when no one else acted. They acted because they felt it was right. The hologram shifted. Another world appeared. A natural disaster had struck, leaving countless beings trapped under debris. The human veteran led a team to save them. They worked day and night. They used tools, machines, and skill. They did not ask for thanks. They did not ask for notice. They only did what was necessary. The council members watched silently, feeling a mix of admiration and shame. Admiration for the humans, shame for themselves. Some species had forgotten that life was more important than politics, more important than pride, more important than survival at any cost. The judge's voice was calm but heavy. It seems humans, and this veteran in particular, have reminded us of a truth long forgotten. Strength is not only measured by power. Wisdom is not only measured by knowledge. Greatness is measured by choice. The veteran looked around. He did not need to convince them. He only needed them to see. And now, slowly, they were beginning to understand. Humans were small, yes. Young, yes. Fragile, yes. But their choices, their actions, their responsibility, these were larger than any weapon, larger than any empire, larger than any law. The chamber remained quiet for a long moment. Then a delegate with skin like liquid silver spoke. This, human, acted where we failed. Not out of desire. Not out of duty to self. But out of care for all. This is remarkable. This is proof that humans are more than we thought. Others nodded. Whispers spread. The young species, still uncertain, looked closely at the veteran. They realized that humanity had not sought attention, had not sought reward, and had not even sought recognition. Yet their actions were unforgettable. They had saved countless lives, shaped histories, and reminded the galaxy of a forgotten truth, that courage is measured not by conquest but by choice. The judge's three eyes focused on the veteran. It is clear now that the charges against you are not about crime. They are about understanding. The council must learn, and perhaps we must change. Humans have taught us that actions speak louder than power, that life is more valuable than victory, and that a single choice can change the fate of many. The veteran nodded slightly, acknowledging their words without pride. He did not need praise. He only needed them to remember. He had acted when no one else would. And now, the galaxy was beginning to see why that choice mattered. As the holograms faded and the chamber lights returned to normal, the human veteran stood quietly, calm and strong. Around him, the council members whispered, reflected, and remembered. History was alive again. Choices mattered again. Humanity's quiet power had been revealed, not through force, but through responsibility, care, and courage. The first steps toward true understanding had begun. The veteran had reminded the galaxy of a simple truth, that even a small species can make a difference when it chooses to act rightly, when it chooses to be better, and when it chooses responsibility over all else. The human veteran stood in the center of the chamber. The council had already risen in respect when his name was spoken. Yet the trial was not over. Many still wondered why such a small, quiet species had been summoned here at all. Why had the council called a human to face judgment? The alien judge tapped the gavel again. The council has learned much about the actions of humans in times of crisis. Yet the true question remains, why did you act differently than others? Why did humans choose responsibility over power? The veteran remained calm. He had expected this question. The council did not yet fully understand humans. Most species measured strength in victories, influence, or technology. Humans measured strength in choice. That was why he had been brought here. Not to be punished, but to remind the galaxy of something it had almost forgotten. The judge continued. This trial is unusual. It is not about guilt or innocence. It is about understanding. Many delegates believe that humans act like others, but your actions prove otherwise. Tell us why your people have always acted with care, even when it was not required. The veteran spoke slowly, each word clear. Humans are not the strongest. We are not the fastest or the most skilled. But we are capable of choice. When life is at risk, we do what is right. Not for reward, not for glory, not for power. We act because it is necessary. Someone has to act. Someone has to make the hard choice. That is why humans have survived, grown, and been remembered, not because of conquest but because of responsibility. The chamber was silent. The delegates had heard words like these before, but they rarely understood them. Humans were small, yes. Fragile, yes. Young in the galaxy, yes. Yet their actions were larger than anyone had expected. Their choices changed outcomes that had seemed impossible. The judge leaned forward. You speak of choice. And yet the galaxy has judged humans as reckless, small, and weak. Why should we reconsider? Why should we trust that humans will act rightly in the future? The veteran's eyes scanned the room. He did not need to convince them. He only needed them to see. Because we have already acted. We have already made the choice when others would not. The lives we saved, the disasters we prevented, the people we helped, they are proof. Humans do not need recognition. We act because it is necessary. That is all. The council members shifted. Some nodded slowly. Others remained quiet, still trying to understand. The youngest species, still learning about the galaxy, whispered to each other. They do not fight for glory. They do not rule. They simply do what is right. The judge's voice broke the quiet again. This trial, which began as a judgment, is now becoming a lesson. The council must see not a human accused but a human teacher. You have reminded us that strength is not only in power but in action. That courage is not only in war but in choice. That greatness is not in conquest but in responsibility. Holograms flickered again, showing humans acting quietly in crises across the galaxy. Helping refugees. Preventing conflicts. Saving lives when others had abandoned hope. The council watched, amazed. Many had never seen such restraint, such care, such courage. The human veteran did not speak for a while. He waited. He let the council see themselves through the truth of human action. They had forgotten that responsibility could be stronger than fear, that mercy could be stronger than anger, that one person, or one species, could make the right choice when everyone else failed. Finally, the judge spoke once more. The council recognizes now that the charges against you are not about crime. They are about understanding, about remembering, about learning. The galaxy has grown too long without this lesson. Humans, through your actions, have reminded us that choice matters more than power, that life matters more than conquest, and that responsibility is the greatest strength of all. The veteran nodded slightly. He did not bow. He did not seek praise. He had acted when others could not. And now the council was learning that lesson. The chamber remained quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, council members began to whisper, sharing their thoughts and realizations. Some were humbled. Some were inspired. All had been reminded of something they had forgotten long ago, that the smallest species, the youngest species, the species they had dismissed, could teach the galaxy the meaning of courage. The veteran looked around. He had done his duty. He had stood for what was right. He had reminded the galaxy of the power of choice. Now it was up to them to remember, to act, and to change. Outside the chamber, across countless worlds, news of the trial spread. The galaxy waited for the council's decision, but many already understood. Humans were not like others. They were small, yes. Young, yes. but in their quiet choices they were the strongest of all. The judge tapped the gavel one last time. The trial is concluded, not with punishment but with recognition. Humans, and this veteran in particular, have shown us the value of responsibility. The Council will remember and the galaxy will know that a single choice can change everything. The veteran remained standing, calm and steady. He had not sought glory. He had not sought honor. He had only done what was right. And now, for the first time, the galaxy was beginning to see why that mattered. The council chamber was quiet, but the silence was not tense anymore. It was full of respect, thought and reflection. The human veteran still stood in the center, calm and straight. Around him, hundreds of species watched closely. They had listened. They had seen the records. They had understood something they had forgotten long ago. The alien judge, with his polished stone skin and 3 glowing eyes, looked down at the human. The council has learned the truth. Not about guilt, not about crime, but about choice, responsibility, and courage. Humans have acted when others would not. They have acted when it was necessary, even without reward or recognition. The veteran did not speak immediately. He had nothing to prove. He had only done what was right. For decades, humans had quietly acted in the galaxy, helping when it mattered most, saving lives and showing that small choices could change entire worlds. And now the council was seeing that clearly. Slowly, one by one, the council members stood. First a few, then more, until the entire chamber was filled with standing beings. They did not stand to threaten him. They did not stand to demand. They stood out of respect. Respect for the human. Respect for humanity. Respect for the quiet strength that came from making the right choice when no one else would. The veteran did not bow. He did not raise his arms. He simply stood tall. Around him, the council whispered and shared stories. Some remembered past mistakes. Some realized that humans had acted rightly when they themselves had failed. For the first time in centuries, the council felt humility. One delegate, covered in fur that shifted colors, stepped forward. "We have judged humans too quickly," it said. "We have thought them weak, small, and young. But their choices, their responsibility, their courage, these are greater than many of us will ever understand." Another, with scales that shone like molten silver, added, "This human veteran is not alone. His people have always acted with care, even when the galaxy ignored them. We must remember this. We must change." The judge nodded. "The council will record a new precedent. Humans are not to be underestimated. Their strength is not in conquest. Their strength is in choice. Their power is in responsibility. Let this be remembered across the galaxy for generations to come." The veteran finally spoke, his voice calm but clear. "I do not ask for honor or praise. I only ask that humans are no longer forgotten, no longer dismissed. That our actions are seen for what they are, choices made when they were needed most. That is all we ask." The chamber remained silent. Then, slowly, whispers of agreement filled the space. The council members looked at each other. They understood now. Humanity had not conquered with weapons. Humanity had conquered by showing that even the smallest species could change the galaxy through responsibility, courage, and care. Outside the chamber, news of the trial spread quickly. Across many worlds, species discussed what they had learned. Some felt shame for underestimating humans. Some felt hope, knowing that if humans could act rightly, so could others. The veteran's name became a symbol, not of war or victory but of ethics, courage, and quiet strength. Back in the chamber, the human veteran turned slowly and walked toward the exit. He did not rush. He did not hurry. He walked calmly, leaving the chamber filled with whispers, reflections, and the standing council. He had done what he came to do. He had reminded the galaxy of the value of responsibility. As he passed the delegates, many bowed slightly, not to him personally but to what he represented. Humanity. A species small in size, young in the galaxy, yet capable of choices greater than any weapon or empire. The veteran felt no pride, only quiet satisfaction. He had acted when it mattered. And now, the galaxy had remembered. The council remained standing long after he left. They discussed new policies, new ways to act, new ways to measure strength. They no longer thought only in terms of power or conquest. They thought in terms of responsibility, courage, and the quiet choices that could change everything. The veteran returned to his ship, looking out at the stars. Worlds stretched out before him, some thriving, some struggling. He knew humans would continue to act quietly, to help when needed, to save lives when no one else could. He knew they would continue to show that true strength was in choice, not power. And as the stars twinkled in the vast darkness, one thing was clear: humanity had reminded the galaxy of something it had almost forgotten. Even the smallest species, the youngest species, could change everything through courage, responsibility, and the choices made when no one else would. The Council would remember. The galaxy would remember. And humans would continue quietly to act rightly, no matter who was watching.